Look at that. Look how fast he's here. Look how fast he's here. Behind your shot.
Dave and Sherwood.
Very
testimony presiding. Please be seated for a minute.
Good morning. All right. The first thing I want to say is I get a call from my mother last night and my mother-in-law saying, "Why did you have your phone on the bench?" So I want to clear everything up. That was not my phone. That was a call through the computer system because I guess we have an open line for remote witnesses, so that it came through the computer system. Jamie says it's never happened before, but it came through the computer system and she hung up on it. So just for the record, that was not my phone. Okay? So I don't need that kind of grief from my mother, all right? Come on. Okay. Thank you. All right. So I think before the jury comes out, we do have one issue with Exhibit 2. Is it Exhibit 548? Plaintiff's Exhibit 548. Okay. So you had offered it to come into evidence, and I know there was an objection. There was a lot of hearsay on it, and so is there a redacted copy for me, or is that something you haven't worked through?
We haven't seen it.
Okay. Okay, that's fine, Mr. Chu. I think it was her witness, but that's fine. Well, I know it's their exhibit, but you're offering it, and so if you're offering it, you have to redact it to basically. I think it says two.
I wanted to make sure that, in fact, I was going to bring that up this morning. I wasn't sure of the court's ruling, so I didn't know what.
Well, I just wanted to make sure. I know there.
I think we need to work out the details on that, Your Honor.
Okay, if you could work out the details, so you owe me one exhibit, so we'll get that at some point today, right? Or even if, I guess, tomorrow when I see you guys, that's fine. Okay, perfect. All right. Anything else preliminary before the jury? Mr. Rottenborn?
One brief matter, Your Honor. May we approach?
Yes, that's fine. Okay. Are we ready for the jury?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Your next witness.
Good morning, Your Honor. Our first witness is Kate James, by witness.
Okay, by video. I'm doing that 2 seconds earlier. Can you get the screen up? I like to get the screen up before. Ladies and gentlemen, we usually try to get the screen up before you because of that, the sound, but we'll get it up for you. Like this too. I don't know.
Good morning, Ms. James. Can you please say your full name?
My name is Catherine Olwyn James.
What's your current address? Have you ever spoken with Ms. Vasquez before today?
Yes,
When?
I don't recall.
What was the substance of that conversation?
I don't recall.
Was it in the past month?
No.
Was it in the past year?
Yes.
Did you talk about this case?
No.
What did you talk about?
I don't recall.
If you don't recall, how can you recall that you didn't discuss this case? Have you discussed this case or the UK litigation with Mr. Waldman?
Yes, I discussed the UK case with Mr. Waldman.
What did you discuss about the UK case with Mr. Waldman?
Your Honor, can we stop this, please?
Okay.
I don't recall.
Could you pause, please?
No details whatsoever that you recall?
Yeah.
Did Miss?
You could, there you go. All right, you want to approach? Or,
Sure.
I'm not sure. Ladies and gentlemen, in addition to the video deposition, there are some extra statements that this witness made that aren't part of the video, but is part of her testimony. So Mr. Rottenborn is just going to read those into the record and for you as well, okay?
Question: have you spoken with Adam Waldman before? Answer: yes. Question: when was the last time you spoke with him? Answer: I don't recall. Question: how many times have you spoken with him? Answer: I would say somewhere around 10 times total. Question: have you spoken with him in 2022? Answer: yes. Question: what was the substance of that conversation? Answer: friendly banter. Question: about what? Answer: nothing to do with the case at all. Question: what was it about? Answer: we have gotten to know each other, and, you know, I was on vacation, said Happy New Year, that's it. Question: did you call him or did he call you? Answer: I didn't call him. Question: did you text him? Answer: I sent a message saying Happy New Year to a lot of my friends. Question: over text? Answer: yes.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, you can continue the video.
Waldman assist you in preparing your witness statements for the UK litigation?
No.
Did you exchange drafts of those statements with Mr. Waldman?
No.
Who did you send those drafts to?
Shillings.
Is every word in those witness statements words that you drafted?
Yes.
Did anyone provide edits to those witness statements for your consideration?
I'm very good at my own editing, I can assure you.
That didn't answer my question. Did anyone else provide edits to those witness statements for
No.
your? Now, you've spoken with Mr. Depp since he and Amber got divorced, correct?
Correct.
When was the last time you spoke with him? You can answer.
I don't recall.
Was it within the past year?
No.
In any day prior to today, have you exchanged text messages with Mr. Depp?
Yes.
When was the last time, approximately, that you exchanged text messages with Mr. Depp?
I would say 2016. Oh, yeah, I think 2016, but it's a long time ago.
When was the last time you spoke with Amber Heard?
I don't recall.
Was it shortly after your employment with her ended in 2015?
No.
Was it after that?
No.
Have you spoken with her to the best of your recollection or communicated with her in any way in the past, say, 5 years?
No.
When were you hired by Ms. Hurd?
In 2012,
How did you meet her?
her sister put an ad through, a recruitment system I use in my field.
Take me through the chronology of, well, let me ask it this way. When did would you describe your work for Ms. Hurd as a personal assistant? Is that what you would call your job title?
Yes.
When did you first start working as a personal assistant?
In 1999.
For how many people have you served as a personal assistant?
Maybe 6.
Since you left Ms. Hurd's employment in 2015, for how many people have you served as a personal assistant?
1. That's the same person I work for to this day. I've been with him for 6.5 years.
Ms. James, have you had any other jobs since, other than this personal assistant job, since you left Ms. Hurd's employment?
No.
Now, your work for Ms. Hurd was it part-time or full-time?
It started as part-time and became full-time.
When did you change from part-time to full-time?
I don't recall.
What were your job duties?
Too many to mention.
Give me your best summary of what your job duties were, please.
Is this relevant? Okay, so let's see. I mean, if you are ready for a really, really long time of me explaining all of the details, that's fine. It's everything you could possibly do to run someone's life, okay? So it is grocery shopping. It is taking care of admin. It is running errands. It is getting the car fixed. It is getting the dogs groomed. It is picking up flowers. It is dealing with the decorator. It is dealing with the housekeeper. It is going on and on and on and on, and it goes on every single day. Arranging travel, dealing with all of the surplus staff around the travel, booking all the greeters, dealing with the changing of travel, okay, liaising with people that she's working with on films, updating her calendar accordingly, liaising with the people on set every single day to update her calendar to ensure that she knows what scene she's doing each day, what her call time is. Every day it's something different. But it's a lot, it's a myriad of things that go across the board daily.
You were paid for that work, correct?
Very poorly.
What were you paid? Was it $1,500 a week to start?
Kidding?
Is that what?
I wish, my God. No, it was not. She paid me $25 an hour to start off with, and she finally agreed after screaming abuse at me that she would pay me $50,000 a year once I went to full-time. And this was after me working for well over 10 years as a personal assistant. So it was very insulting to me, but I did it anyway because I had grandfathered in the ability to pick up my son from school and bring him to work with me at 3 o'clock.
And you could have left Ms. Hurd's employment at any time, correct?
Yes.
You were based in Los Angeles when you were providing personal assistant services to Ms. Hurd, right?
I have always lived in Los Angeles since 1999.
So you didn't travel with Ms. Hurd when she was out of town, correct?
That was another part of our agreement that I wouldn't travel with her because of my child.
And she was out of town quite a bit, right?
Not really.
Not really? How many weeks a year would you estimate Ms. Hurd was out of town while you worked for her?
Well, you're talking almost 10 years ago, so I can't tell you quite honestly.
But when she was out of town, you wouldn't see, you never traveled with her, right?
No.
How much did you see Mr. Depp over the course of your employment with Ms. Hurd?
Regularly.
how many times? Well, obviously you didn't see him when he was out of town, right?
No.
When he was in town, would you see him daily, weekly, monthly? What would you estimate?
There is no rhyme or reason to answer that question.
Now, you never witnessed any violence between Miss Heard or Mr. Depp, right?
No.
And Miss Heard never told you that she had been violent to Mr. Depp, correct?
No.
You had knowledge that Miss Heard and Mr. Depp had arguments, correct?
No.
Miss Heard never told you that she and Mr. Depp had arguments?
Occasionally she'd send a text message complaining about her mental state, but it's never clear exactly what was going on. It was
Okay, so you never...
It was, I remember she would text me complaining about her mental state, and that was about it. I don't have any of the text messages, so it's hard to remember.
Do you recall hearing anything about an alleged incident between Amber and Johnny on a flight from Boston to LA around this time frame?
Like I said, I remember that day very well.
And to follow up on that, I'm not asking just about what Amber may have told you. I'm just trying to drill down generally to what you may have heard, whether from Amber or Johnny or anyone, about that flight. Does that make sense? So can you tell us, what do you remember hearing about that flight, or what happened or didn't happen on that flight from Boston to LA?
Don't know.
Sitting here today, you don't remember anything that you heard about that?
I don't know. I wasn't on the plane. I just know what happened afterwards, okay? When she asked me to come and meet her at the shuttle.
Did you think to ask her if she was okay?
You know, I probably did, because that's my role, to play a caregiver. That's all I can imagine.
So what do you remember about this day that you alluded to earlier?
Mostly my surprise that they went to the Chateau Marmont, because Amber had an apartment of her own in West Hollywood that was like completely set up and available to her. So that was my biggest confusion. Like, why did she go to the Chateau? And then she asked me to get her bathing suit. I remember that. So I had to go to her apartment to get her bathing suit, which again seems strange to me. And then what also seemed strange is when I got there, she had a bunch of friends with her. And originally I thought she was alone.
When you refer to Amber's apartment, are you referring to the apartment on Orange Avenue?
Yes, yeah.
And isn't it true that Mr. Depp would spend time in that apartment with Amber time to time, correct?
Well, I don't really know what the question is in relation to that. He wasn't there at that time, if that's what you're referring to.
Yeah, no, that's not my question. My question was just, over the course of your employment, you have knowledge of Mr. Depp spending time at that Orange Avenue apartment,
I spent
right?
time there, and at his residences, I would go around different places. Yeah.
Were you concerned about Miss Heard and her well-being on this day?
No, because it had become a pattern with her, and so I was merely placating her, I would say, and especially when I saw she was there with about 4 or 5 girlfriends and basically having fun, enjoying each other down by the pool. That's why she needed a swimsuit. And then they proceeded to hang there all day drinking while I sat around waiting with my son. Actually, I think it was a Sunday that day, I remember. We had to wait all day, and while they just hung around drinking by the pool. And then finally I went home, and finally she went back to her apartment. And then she wanted me to go back and pack her bag for her at about 10 o'clock at night on Sunday. And I said I couldn't go. By that point, I'd already spent the whole day sitting there. So I said I couldn't go and pack her bag because I'd already put my son to bed, and she was very angry about that. I remember that.
Okay, so so when you asked her if she was okay, you didn't actually care if she was okay. You said you were just placating her, right?
It was a standard procedure at this point. She was a very dramatic person.
So you didn't actually think that there was anything that Amber was actually upset, correct?
As I said, it just didn't make sense that she went to the chateau instead of going home. That was the first red flag for me that day. You know.
So you came to the conclusion that day that she actually wasn't upset. Is that what you're saying?
It's too much. I mean, I already answered once.
What I'm asking is, did you come to the conclusion that there was nothing wrong with Miss Heard that day and that she wasn't actually upset?
I don't know how to answer. I mean, it's such a strange question. Like they said, you already asked me and I already answered.
I'm asking you to answer it again. I don't think I asked the exact same question, but do your best, please.
Could you ask me the question in a different way or a clearer way that is not exactly the same as the last question you asked me?
Did you reach the conclusion that day that Miss Heard hadn't experienced anything traumatic?
Over the course of the day, I observed Miss Heard enjoying the company of her friends for several hours. That's all I have to say on that matter.
And would it be odd for someone who's experienced trauma to want to be around friends? To you?
Yeah, I don't know.
So in any event, you said you sat around at the Chateau Marmont. Is that right?
Yes, well, she was deciding what to do.
Now you were being paid for that time, correct?
Not overtime. It was a Sunday. I was not being paid. No.
Did you avail yourself of anything at the hotel? Like, did you order any food?
No.
Did you?
I might have ordered some food for my son, actually, to be honest, now I think about it, because he was only little at the time. I think he was, 5 or something. So I might have ordered food for my son. I'm not a big eater. Food is not a huge priority for me.
Would you have put that on Miss Heard's tab that day?
Everything was on Depp's tab that day, so no.
On Johnny's tab?
Yes.
Let's bring up the document entitled, or that ends in 6151, please.
Showing Exhibit 3 on the screen.
When she wrote, "I love you," and you wrote, "Love you too, hon, won't be long, X," was that just placating Miss Heard?
Standard friendly text exchange in my role of work.
Were you trying to be supportive at all, or just placating her?
A bit of both, I guess.
Did you have any concern whatsoever about Miss Heard's well-being that day?
No.
When was the first time that you remember Miss Heard telling you that all wasn't right in the relationship between her and Mr. Depp?
I don't recall exactly when it started, but it was usually her complaining and crying due to, I would say, insecurities within the relationship more than anything else. She would be very, very insecure a lot of the time, and she would call me up crying. I remember one time she called me when she was alone in New York City, and she was crying and walking around the street crying. And he wasn't there. She was alone, but I said to her that she needed to go inside because I was worried that the paparazzi might take a photo of her, and she was in a very dysregulated state. And so just out of kindness, I said to her it was better if she went inside rather than walking around crying in public. I remember that, but I don't remember exactly when that was. It might have been 2012 or 2013. As the job went on, we called each other less and less and did mostly text messaging. It was all text messaging we did.
Did you ever believe that Mr. mistreated her?
No.
So, and why not?
Just never any evidence of it at all. I was there almost daily in both her place and then eventually at his place in West Hollywood, and then ultimately at the lofts downtown. It was a daily basis experience, morning, noon, night, all days of the week. So, you know, I mean, I never once saw any evidence of anything.
Did Miss Heard ever tell you that Johnny had hit her?
No.
Did she ever tell you that Johnny had pulled her hair or pushed her?
No.
Let me ask it a little bit differently. You never believed Miss Heard that Mr. Depp had mistreated her. Is that correct?
At the time or after? I never believed it. In what context are you talking about? During my employ or afterward?
During your...
No, never. And there was never any damage to the apartment that I witnessed. There was never any aftermath of anything ever that I ever saw.
Now, you, of course, have no personal knowledge one way or the other whether Johnny was abusive to her, correct?
Well, I don't know if that's necessarily true, because if it was true, I would have seen the damage, even if I wasn't physically present in the moment of these alleged arguments.
And what's your basis for that statement?
Well, if someone's being beaten, there's generally physical evidence.
So your testimony is that if there was no physical evidence that you observed, then it couldn't have happened, the domestic violence by Johnny toward Amber. Is that your testimony?
No.
Well, I'm trying to understand what your testimony is. Maybe you could clarify for me, Ms. James. Is your testimony that you never saw firsthand evidence of Johnny being violent to Amber, that it couldn't have happened?
That's not what I said. You're trying to put words into my mouth. I don't appreciate that.
Can you pull up the document that is, well, let me see what it ends with here. It's the Depp 11432, please.
Showing Exhibit 4 on the screen.
Could you pause for a moment,
I'll
please?
direct your attention to the
Okay.
This is a document that we're just looking for the corresponding trial exhibit. You could just bear with us for 1 minute, and then we'd like to move for admission of it.
All right. What's the number on it?
That's what we're trying to figure
Okay.
out. Sorry for the delay. Your Honor, it's trial exhibit 844.
All right. And that's defendant's 844?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, 844. Any objection to 844? All right, if you want to approach then, if somebody has a copy of 844 for me. Oh, we'll get it. We'll get it. That's all right. Oh, we'll get it.
Can you just wait 1 minute before you start the video? Yes, thanks.
Box at the bottom. Do you see your name Kate in that the column labeled participants?
Yeah.
Is this a text message that you received from Mr. Depp on or around August 13th, 2016?
Yes.
And it appears that he's responding to something that you had sent him, correct?
I don't know.
You see where he says, "Thank you, sweetheart"?
Yes.
He's directing that to you, right?
It looks like there's someone else CC'd on this text, so it could be to that person. I honestly don't know. I can't answer your question.
Can we please pause the video?
All right, could you pause for a second? Thank you. He already did. That was good. Thank you.
Nice work.
Could you
And
switch
Your
to?
Honor, I'd like to.
We'll switch
we can
to-
our
okay,
person.
that's fine.
Thank you.
Not yet, but not yet. Don't. Make sure it's set right before you publish it. All right.
And Your Honor, with the stipulation that we'll prepare a redacted version to be entered into evidence that has other personal identifiers redacted, we'd ask for permission to publish, to admit this into evidence and publish to the jury.
All right. The objections are noted, and we will get the redacted copy. All right. So,
Thank you, Your Honor.
thank you. Yeah.
Can you just blow it up, Heather?
All right, sir. All right, are we ready to continue?
Ready to resume with the video. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right.
Do you see where he says, we'll hit you when I get back, doll, come over for a spot of purple and we'll fix her flabby ass nice and good?
Yeah.
Come over for a spot of purple means come over for a drink of wine, right?
I don't know.
That's what you understood it to mean, correct?
I don't know.
Lucian, can you pull up the documents labeled UK Trial Day 7 James testimony, please? And Ms. James, you remember giving testimony in the trial in the UK, right?
Well, there'd be something wrong with me if I didn't.
And in
I need order in the
when
court.
you gave that testimony,
you.
you gave it under oath, correct?
Yes.
Lucian, can you please go to page 39 of the PDF? And can you please blow up the page that is labeled 1221? And on line 7, Ms. James, am I reading this right? You were asked the question, and he is inviting you over for a spot of purple. What is that? Yes, is your answer. Question, what did you understand? You answered red wine, I imagine. Do you see that?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Remember giving that testimony?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So is it your understanding that Mr. Depp was inviting you over for wine at some point after he split up from Miss Heard?
And just speculation.
Did you meet up with Mr. Depp for red wine around the time period of this text on August 13th, 2016?
I did meet up with him, but we did not drink red wine, no.
Was anyone else present for that meeting?
No.
When he said, come over for a spot of purple and we'll fix her flabby ass, you understood him to be referring to Miss Hurt when he said, we'll fix her flabby ass, correct?
Yeah, it wasn't for me to speculate what he was referring to.
And I'm not asking for you to speculate what he was referring to. I'm asking for your understanding was that he was talking to Miss Hurt, correct? You can answer.
There isn't an answer. I mean, this is the way he writes. It's very random and you don't sort of question it. Okay? It's just the way he writes. He writes in a very abstract way.
Okay. Lucian, if you can just pull up the prior testimony that we just looked at. Ms. James, isn't it true that on line 12 of page 1221, you were asked the question, red wine, and not only to come over for a spot of purple, but to fix her flabby ass. That was about Miss Heard, was it not? And on line 14, you answered yes, yes. Do you see that?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So you did understand this to be referring to Miss Heard, correct?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you said no?
Just trying to be agreeable in the court, having no clue what on earth is going on. So there you go. I have no clue.
Was that answer in the court truthful or just agreeable?
Just being agreeable.
So it wasn't truthful? You can answer.
I don't have an answer for you, Mr. Rottenborn.
What did you and Mr. Depp talk about at that meeting that you recall?
I don't recall details.
Just tell me generally everything you recall.
It's too long ago, Mr. Rottenborn. I don't recall.
Do you recall anything?
No.
Where was the meeting?
At his residence in West Hollywood.
Is that his residence? What? I'm sorry.
In West Hollywood.
What time of day?
About 3 p.m.
So you recall the time of day, but you don't recall anything you discussed?
No, I'm just saying, I know it was in the afternoon because it was after I picked my son up from school, because my son went to swim in the pool with the security guards watching him while I went and had a brief conversation with Mr. Depp. That's the only reason I remember the time.
You talk about Miss Heard.
Yes.
What did you discuss about Miss Heard?
Like I said, I don't recall the details.
Well, I'm just a little confused because you just testified you didn't remember anything, but now you remember that you did talk about Miss Heard. So what I'm trying to get is everything you remember about the conversation.
Well, you've got to understand, Mr. Rottenborn, the mutual connection between Mr. Depp and myself is, in fact, Miss Heard. So inevitably, that is going to be part of the conversation. That's all I remember. Okay?
Do you remember anything else about that conversation with Mr. Depp?
No.
Have you seen Mr. Depp since that conversation?
No.
Now, just describe generally your educational background, please.
I completed high school and then I went straight into becoming a veterinary nurse when I left school, which I did for approximately 3 to 4 years before I left Australia.
Do you have any sort of specialized training in veterinary medicine or nursing?
Only on the ground experience. I was 4 years in a clinic.
So, you don't have any experience with medical training for humans, right?
No.
And you don't have any training in healthcare, correct?
Could you be more specific?
You don't have any training in healthcare for people, correct?
I'm not a human nurse, if that's your question. I don't really understand your question.
Sorry, you don't have any training related to prescription drugs, do you?
No.
And you have no basis.
Excuse me, only pertaining to animals. Yes, I would like to add that.
Okay, and that was the training that you received on the job in Australia before you came to the U.S.?
Amongst other things, yeah.
You're familiar with Ms. Heard taking prescriptions for Accutane and Provigil, among other things, correct?
Objection.
You are not, you never served as a nurse or a doctor to Ms. Heard, right?
No.
And you have no medical knowledge to testify whether Ms. Heard used Provigil or Accutane in the way her doctors instructed, correct?
No.
And you're not an expert on the interaction of prescription drugs and alcohol or other drugs, correct?
No.
Did you, during the course of your employment, develop any personal knowledge of Mr. Depp's use of alcohol or drugs?
Not firsthand.
And what do you mean by not firsthand?
Well, I worked with Amber. I didn't work with him.
Did you ever see Mr. Depp using illegal drugs?
No.
Did you ever see Mr. Depp abuse alcohol?
No.
Did you ever speak with Dr. Kipper?
No.
Did you ever speak with Aaron Borum?
Yes.
And Aaron Borum was a nurse who worked for Dr. Kipper, right?
She was assigned to Amber. That's how
sorry.
I spoke to her.
I'm sorry.
She was assigned to Amber. That's how I came to be speaking to her.
And she also provided medical services to Johnny, right?
I don't know.
What do you recall speaking to Aaron Borum about?
Just random chit chat in the course of the day, nothing specific.
Do you recall ever forming any concern in your own mind about any of Mr. Depp's behavior in his relationship with Amber?
Never.
Nothing you heard, nothing you witnessed, nothing you saw during your time with Miss Heard ever gave you an inkling of concern about Mr. Depp's behavior toward Amber?
Never.
Now, you left your employment, or your employment with Amber ended in early 2015, correct?
Yeah, just after they came back from the wedding on the island.
Did Miss Heard terminate your employment?
When Miss Heard came back from the island, she informed me that she now needed to support her mother because her mother could no longer work after a diagnosis, a medical diagnosis, and she told me she could no longer afford to pay me since she had to support her mother, and therefore she would have to terminate my employment to support her family.
And did you resent Miss Heard for that, for terminating your employment?
I would have been nice to have been given some notice, so I had some time to look around. So I was a little upset for the lack of notice. But apart from that, no, I was not upset.
Miss Heard gave you 6 weeks of severance pay, correct?
I don't recall.
Did you want to stay in the job for Miss Heard?
Well, I did ask if I could have a few months heads up so I could seek another job that would suit the terms of my employment, but she did not allow that.
And that made you angry, correct?
No.
Did you ask to be put on Mr. Depp's payroll so that you could remain being paid by Miss Heard or Mr. Depp?
Well, when she said she couldn't afford it, I said, now you're married, couldn't I go on to Depp's payroll? And she said, no, it was part of a legal agreement they had that she was not allowed to do that. I don't know whether that was true or not.
You ever asked Mr. Depp whether you could go on his payroll?
No.
Isn't it true that you asked to live in one of Mr. Depp's houses rent-free for a period of time after your employment?
Well, you see, I'm a homeowner, but I want to be clear. I didn't want to miss a mortgage payment due to unemployment. So my idea is perhaps I could find an alternate accommodation in order to rent out my house so I don't lose my entire property. I'm a homeowner. Keeping my home and my payments up to date is the paramount importance to me.
Isn't it true that you had already skipped about 1.5 years of mortgage payments on your home during the time you were employed by Miss Heard?
No.
Let's pull up the document ending in ALH 5858, please.
Got Exhibit 11 on the screen.
Yeah, I think you've read everything. So if you're ready for me to ask you questions, my first question is just: is this an email exchange between you and Amber relating to the termination of your employment?
Yeah, this is the email I received when she terminated me.
And then the emails above in this document are, some of which are duplicated, are an email exchange that you had with Amber after you received the termination email.
Yeah, when I woke up that morning, yeah.
can you go to the first page, please? Top of the document. Isn't it true that Ms. Heard did pay you 6 extra weeks of pay after your termination?
She's stating that, but I don't recall if it actually happened or not.
You don't have personal knowledge one way or the other, or a recollection of whether she did?
No.
And isn't it true that you do tell her in this email that you didn't pay your mortgage for the first year and a half that you were working for her?
Yes,
Correct?
I had one of those balloon mortgages, so I had to go through a loan modification, and I recall now that that's why I was able to agree to work for her for such a small amount of money than what I normally made. It was sort of as a favor almost.
What was a favor?
To work for her for like half my usual paycheck, basically.
So you were doing Amber a favor?
Yes, because initially it was described as a part-time, 20-hour-a-week thing with flexibility and blah, blah, blah. So, you know, I thought it's not really in my caliber, but my son was only 4 at the time, so it seemed like a good idea, especially because I wasn't paying my mortgage, so I could take the hit by getting less pay than I would normally make. And that way I could also have the time with my son that I wanted.
Are you? And I think the answer to this is no, but I just want to be clear. You're not blaming Amber for you're not paying your mortgage, right?
No, that was my choice. That was the only way I could get a loan modification. It was the way it was back then. But you know the 2008 crash, that's how it worked back then. If you wanted to save property. Well,
And you started working for Amber in 2012, right?
yes, it took a long time, the loan modification process.
And you're not blaming Amber for getting a credit card with 29% interest, are you?
What?
You see in your email on that first page, about 2/3 of the way down, you say, I have borrowed from my mom my tenant's security deposit, and now I have used up a credit card I should use as it has 29% interest.
No, that's my choice.
Did you have tenants in your property at that time?
I have a duplex. I'm just trying. And that time, yes, I had tenants in one house and I was living in the other.
Did you use the tenant's security deposit for personal expenses?
I don't remember.
Do you see where you say I have borrowed from my mom my tenant's security deposit? Do you recall using your tenant's security deposit or borrowing from that?
It's too long ago for me to recall if it actually happened.
Would there be a reason that you would have said that if it wasn't true?
No.
And isn't it true that you did ask to live rent-free in one of Johnny's houses after you were terminated, right?
Lots of people did.
And isn't it true that you did?
Yes.
And did that ever come to pass?
No.
Did it make you angry that that didn't happen?
No.
It's fair to say at the time that your employment was terminated, you were in fairly significant financial trouble, correct?
Yes.
And you were angry with Amber for terminating you at this time when you were in financial trouble, correct?
No.
See at the bottom of your email on page 2, you say, Max and I love you very much, as a sign off to your email.
Yes.
And Max is your son, right?
Yes.
That wasn't true, correct? In fact, you didn't love Amber. You didn't like her, did you?
Any close relationship has ebbs and flows in the energy that you feel towards one another. It's pretty standard.
And at that point in time, you, since your termination, you've had nothing but animosity toward Miss Heard, correct?
No, I actually bumped into her at the P.O. box about 3 months after, and she was in her Range Rover, and I saw her sister and she said, come say hi to Amber. And I went back there and I was going to say hi, but she was on the phone and she was saying, wait, but then I had to go. That's the only time I've ever seen her, but I wanted to go and say hi. I wasn't feeling like I wanted to avoid her or anything. You know, things happen and life goes on, you know.
I understand you're a personal assistant, Ms. James. What type of people do you work for?
High-profile celebrities.
Are they celebrities in the entertainment industry?
Yes.
You previously testified that in March of 2012, you worked as a personal assistant for Ms. Heard, yes?
Yes.
In total, how long did you work for Ms. Heard as her personal assistant?
Almost 3 years.
And at the time you were hired in March of 2012, had you ever heard of Ms. Heard?
No.
You previously testified today that at some point while working for Ms. Heard, you transitioned from working part-time to full-time. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
When did that transition happen?
I don't recall specifically.
Do you think it happened within the first year of your employment?
I believe it happened within around 6 months into the employment.
So most definitely it happened in the first year of your employment. Is that correct?
Yes.
You previously testified that you stopped working for Ms. Heard as her personal assistant in February of 2015. Is that right?
Yes.
And you also testified that Ms. Heard let you go upon her return from the Bahamas in February of 2015. Yes?
Yes.
Did Ms. Heard ever give you any indication or warning that your employment might end upon her marriage to Mr. Depp?
No.
How did it make you feel when Ms. Heard terminated your employment without warning?
A bit of a shock, a bit of a feeling of being blindsided.
When you first began working for Ms. Heard, and when Ms. Heard was in town, in other words, not traveling, how many times per week would you see her?
Almost daily.
And did that change when you became a full-time personal assistant for Ms. Heard?
No.
Would you see Ms. Heard on the weekends as well?
Yes.
And when you would see Ms. Heard in person, did you coordinate with her when you would be seeing her?
No, I would arrive whenever it was necessary to bring stuff that I'd picked up on errands or whatnot. There was no given set schedule.
And when you say you would arrive, where would you arrive to?
It depended where she was at the time. Sometimes she was at Orange, sometimes she was at one of Johnny's houses on Sweetser, and then eventually they all moved down to the lofts downtown.
You previously testified that your work as Ms. Heard's, as being Ms. Heard's private assistant was extensive. Would you please tell us everything that you were responsible for?
Everything from handling all of her dry cleaning, picking up packages, mail, liaising with agents, other people in the industry, coordinating travel, making restaurant reservations, dealing with the staff, the vendors on the property, that sort of thing.
Did Ms. Heard ever ask you to monitor press for her?
Yes.
What specifically did she ask you to do?
I had a newsstand guy that was instructed to hold 2 copies of every magazine she appeared in. Was a newsstand on Sherbourne Avenue, just off La Cienega, and he would hold them for me, and I would go there once a week to pick up a pile of magazines.
I'm sorry, you got muffled out. You said that he would hold those for me
He
and
would hold them for me, and I would go approximately once a week to pick up whatever magazines Amber was featured in, 2 copies of each, which I would then store in her garage.
Why would you store them in Ms. Heard's garage?
Because she didn't want Mr. Depp to see them.
Did she tell you why she didn't want Mr. Depp to see them?
No, she just got very angry with me one day because I hadn't quite made it downstairs to put them in the garage when she came home, and she went absolutely ballistic over that.
When you say she went absolutely ballistic over that, can you please describe what you mean?
Screaming, yelling, abuse.
Do you remember what she said to you?
No.
That it was abusive in your opinion?
Blind rage.
Over the 3-year period in which you worked for Miss Heard, were you ever with Miss Heard when she was getting dressed or undressing?
All the time.
How often were you present when Miss Heard was getting dressed?
Every time she was getting dressed for a fitting, I would say 90% of the time I was there.
And just to clarify, was it just when Miss Heard was in fittings that you would see her in states of undress?
No, it was also in her apartment. She had no issue with walking around naked quite often.
Did you ever observe Miss Heard putting on makeup?
Yes.
How often did you see Miss Heard doing her makeup?
Just when she was getting ready to go out somewhere for a party or something.
And when you interacted with Miss Heard, and I understand it was quite frequent and regular, did it appear to you that she was wearing makeup?
She usually never wore makeup unless she was going to a special event.
And when she did go to special events, would you describe her makeup as heavy?
It would depend. It would, a makeup artist would do it, or if she would do it herself. If she did it herself, it would be light and usually adding lashes, and that's about it.
And I believe you previously testified to this, so I'm sorry for asking you again, but while you worked for Miss Heard, did you ever see any types of injuries on her?
No.
Did you ever see any cuts?
No.
Did you see bruises?
No.
Did you see swelling?
No.
Redness in her face?
No.
How about Miss Heard having black eyes?
Never.
A broken nose?
Never.
Missing hair clumps? Sorry, I didn't catch that. Ms. James.
Never.
Did you ever see Miss Heard cry?
Yes.
How often did you see her cry?
Hard to put a number on it. Sometimes she would cry on the phone. I think at least once or twice she might have cried on the phone. You know, and then as far as seeing her personally crying, you know, she was a pretty dramatic person. It's hard to really put a number on it.
I'm focusing on when you saw her in person crying. How many times do you believe that you saw her in person crying?
I would say twice, maybe twice.
Let's take that in bite sizes. The first time you saw Miss Heard cry in person, do you recall what she was crying about? Go ahead, Miss James.
Insecure emotions.
So the 2 times that you recall Miss Heard crying in front of you, you remember her crying about being insecure. Is that correct?
Yes.
You testified that she felt insecure about her relationship. Is that correct?
Yes.
Can you expand on that? What do you mean by that?
He didn't like being away from his physical presence.
Did Miss Heard tell you that she felt insecure when Mr. Depp wouldn't be present with her?
Yeah.
Other than telling you she felt insecure about her relationship with Mr. Depp, what else did Miss Heard say about feeling insecure?
She told me she didn't like hanging out in his house with his friends because it was boring and they were all old men playing guitars and it wasn't interesting to her.
Was Miss Heard dating Mr. Depp when you first started working for her?
Yes.
When did you first learn that Miss Heard was dating Mr. Depp?
After about a month, I think.
How did you learn that she was dating Mr. Depp?
She told me.
What did she tell you?
She told me she was dating Johnny Depp.
Do you recall the first time you met Mr. Depp?
Yes,
When was that?
it was in her apartment on Orange. Probably shortly after she told me she was dating him. He was standing in the dining room.
And approximately when was that?
I don't remember. I would say April or May of 2012.
What was your impression of Mr. Depp?
He was very peaceful, very calm, almost shy, and very quiet. And I remember he was wearing red suede shoes because I didn't know where else to look. I looked at his shoes. It was like it's a weird recollection, I know, but I'm just being honest.
Did you ever witness Mr. Depp be rude to anyone?
He's such a gentleman. He's like a total Southern gentleman. So no.
Did you ever see Mr. Depp lose his cool?
No.
Did you ever see him scream at anyone?
No.
Did you ever see him break something?
Only in a video.
In your presence, did you ever see Mr. Depp break something intentionally?
Never break anything, never throw anything, always completely passive.
I believe you've testified previously that you have a son, correct?
Yes.
How old was your son when you first started working for Ms. Heard?
4 years old.
And did you ever bring your son to work with you?
Yes.
How often?
Quite often, if I had to keep working, I would bring him back there after school. And if I had to work on the weekends, he would come with me then.
Did Mr. Depp ever interact with your son?
Yes, he was very kind.
How often did Mr. Depp interact with your son?
Whenever they were in each other's presence.
Can you give me an estimate of how often that happened?
Oh, countless times. He would even teach him how to play guitar. He brought him back from vacations. He showed him his amazing makeup makeover when he was doing Black Mass. He tricked him. He leant over and was saying, "Do you know who I am?" And the full makeup on his son's jaw almost hit the ground. It was really cute, actually. Yeah. He gave my son a little pick as well, a guitar pick, which he cherishes to this day as well.
Fair to say you were around Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard together quite a lot.
Yeah, it became increasingly more as the time went on. Yeah.
What was your impression of Ms. Heard and Mr. Depp's relationship?
It did not seem like a perfect relationship to me, based on a lot of insecurity on her behalf, which seemed to cause confusion in the relationship. Maybe the age gap was an issue because of their interests. I know that much. Apart from that, who am I to know the relationship, you know?
Do you think that Mr. Depp was smothering of Ms. Heard?
Oh, yeah.
Did it appear to you that Mr. Depp was jealous of Ms. Heard?
No.
Did you ever have interactions with Mr. Depp by yourself?
Sometimes, yeah.
And what were those interactions like?
Just friendly chit-chat, which would stop immediately when Amber saw me speaking to him. She'd give me the evil eye, and I'd know to just quickly walk away.
Did Amber ever talk to you about your interactions with Mr. Depp?
No.
3 years that you worked for Ms. Heard, did you ever see Ms. Heard and Mr. Depp argue?
No.
In the 3 years that you worked for Ms. Heard, did you ever see any physical violence between Ms. Heard and Mr. Depp?
Never.
Did you ever see either of them being physically aggressive with one another?
No.
Did you ever see any property damage at Ms. Heard's home?
Never.
Did you ever see any property damage at Mr. Depp's primary residence on Sweetser?
Never.
Did you ever see any property damage at the lofts or the penthouses at the Eastern Columbia building?
No, never.
Over the 3-year period in which you worked for Ms. Heard, did you ever hear from anyone that Mr. Depp or Ms. Heard had been in a physical altercation?
No.
Over the 3-year period in which you worked for Ms. Heard, did you ever see Ms. Heard be physically aggressive with anyone?
No.
Let's break that down a bit. When you say she was verbally abusive to you regularly, can you explain to me how she was verbally abusive to you?
Screaming over the phone. She screamed at me once in person, multiple times screaming at me over the phone. Barrages of abusive text messages, day and night, a lot of them in the middle of the night, I think you're aware. I think between 2 and 4 a.m. the barrage would start. That's what I'd wake up to. All incoherent, not really making sense, just basically someone to lash out at, no apparent reason to it.
You testified previously that you observed Ms. Heard be verbally abusive to her sister.
Yes.
What do you recall about that?
It was ongoing kick the dog kind of relationship with her sister, so it's really hard to pinpoint any specifics, but her poor sister was treated like the dog that you kick, basically.
You previously testified that you observed Ms. Heard be verbally abusive to her mother.
Mm-hmm.
What specifically did you observe?
Well, there is a video that online where you can see her being abusive first and foremost, so it's not even based on what I'm telling you. It's what I've seen, the interactions between the two of them when her mother was still alive, and the fact that her mother was terrified of her.
Did her mother tell you she was terrified of her?
She personally told me she was terrified of her.
Did you ever witness Ms. Heard tongue lash her mother?
Here and there, yes. Especially when it was a build up to a stressful event or something like that, yeah.
You said you felt that Ms. Heard was verbally abusive to you. Can you provide me with any specific examples of this behavior?
Well, I thought I did earlier, but yeah, it was just so random and ongoing. You would never know when it was going to come left of center. I do remember on one occasion when we were moving from part-time to full-time, and then the salary negotiations became a real bone of contention. And I specifically remember standing in her office where she leapt up out of her chair, put her face approximately 4 inches from my face. She was spitting in my face and telling me how dare I ask for the salary I was asking for, which was in fact approximately half of my regular annual salary. I was offering her that as a favor, and she felt that gave her the right to spit in my face. And there was a witness in the apartment at that time, by the way.
Who was at the apartment at the time?
The handyman, Hector Galindo.
I'm sorry?
The handyman, Hector Galindo. He was so mortified. He was so embarrassed to hear her speaking to me like that.
Miss James, while you worked for Miss Heard, did you ever observe her drinking alcohol?
Yes, I did.
How often did you observe Miss Heard drink alcohol?
Don't recall.
What alcohol did you observe Miss Heard drink in your presence?
Red wine.
Did Miss Heard ever appear intoxicated to you?
Yes, she often did.
While you worked for Miss Heard, were you aware of what, if any, prescription drugs she was taking?
Yes, because I had to pick it up and I often had to deliver it to her. To
You
set.
anticipated. I'm sorry, Miss James, I interrupted your question, or your answer, excuse me. The last part of your answer was to...
It was my job to pick it up and deliver it to her, also bring it to her if she was doing a photo shoot or, on set or something, if she'd forgotten it.
What prescription drugs do you remember picking up from Miss Heard?
Provigil.
Any other prescription drugs that you remember picking up from Miss Heard?
Accutane.
Any others?
Not specifically.
To your knowledge, did Miss Heard ever stop taking Provigil or Accutane while you were working for her?
No.
Did Miss Heard ever tell you that she was experiencing any side effects from Provigil?
She didn't say it, but I observed it.
We'll go back to that in a minute, but did Miss Heard ever tell you that she was experiencing any side effects from Accutane?
No.
You previously testified that you observed Miss Heard having certain side effects from Provigil. Yes?
Yes.
What side effects did you observe Miss Heard exhibiting?
Manic episodes.
Can you tell me what you mean by manic episodes?
Similar to if someone was on some sort of amphetamine drug. Moving very fast, not making a lot of sense, hyper-organizing, hyper-tasking, just very, very hyper. Yeah.
Besides prescribed medication, did you ever observe Miss Heard ingest any illicit drugs while you worked for her?
No.
Did Miss Heard ever tell you that she had ingested illegal drugs?
Yes.
When did Miss Heard tell you that she had ingested illegal drugs?
Sporadically here and there.
What drugs did Miss Heard tell you she had ingested?
Mushrooms, ecstasy, and cocaine.
If you remember, how many times did Miss Heard tell you that she had ingested illegal drugs?
I can't remember.
Based on your personal observations, did it ever appear to you that Miss Heard was under the influence of illegal drugs?
Yes.
How many times?
I don't know.
Less than 5?
It's so long ago, it's hard for me to remember.
why did it appear to you that Miss Heard was under the influence of illegal drugs?
Disoriented, partying with friends, lots of heavy drinking, laughing, dancing, playing, all the sorts of things that go hand in hand with imbibing in drugs.
Would Miss Heard's treatment of you change when she was intoxicated?
Yes.
How so?
She became more and more belligerent and abusive.
Ms. James, you previously testified that you provided testimony in the matter involving Mr. Depp in the United Kingdom. Do you remember that testimony?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And how did you provide testimony in the United Kingdom?
Well, I wrote a witness statement and then I had to do a live video feed.
And did you understand that your witness statement was made under oath?
Yes.
And did you understand that your testimony during the trial live was also under oath?
Yes.
Did anyone help you write your witness statement?
Shillings over in the UK helped me with the first draft, and then I took over and completely edited it to be my own words. That was after a phone conversation we had. They jotted down notes, sent me some basic notes to work with, and then I worked on it from there.
How long did it take you to write your witness statement?
About 3 or 4 days.
Did you feel you had an adequate amount of time to prepare and write your witness statement?
Yes, I was very proud with the outcome of how I wrote it because it was all my words and it was the absolute truth.
And did you have enough time to review your witness statement for accuracy before you signed it?
Yes.
Was everything that was in your witness statement true and accurate to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
And is that still true today?
Yes.
Lucian, may I please have you pull up Depp exhibit number 4, please?
Showing Depp exhibit number 4 on the screen.
Thank you. Ms. James, do you remember receiving an email from Ms. Heard on or about February 12th, 2015?
I don't even believe I was still working for that date.
Do you remember receiving this email in particular from February 12th, 2015?
Again, I don't, as far as I know, I wasn't even working for her at that time, so I wouldn't even know why she wrote this letter to me, quite honestly.
Do you remember receiving this email then?
No.
Okay. Can we please pull up exhibit number 5?
Stand by. Showing Depp exhibit number 5 on the screen.
Lucian, may I ask you to, there you go, you read my mind. Lucian, may I either take control or have you scroll down to the bottom? Thank you. James, the way these emails tend to work is they start at the bottom and then go up. And this one is no exception. So I'm going to, for your ease, I'm going to have you read the bottom email first, since it's the first one in the chain, dated February 3rd, 2015.
Looks like she was travelling straight to London after the wedding. That's what I'm reading.
Do you remember? Actually, you know what? Why don't you read this entire email chain, and then I'm going to ask you some questions about it.
Can you help me? Oh no, it's moving. I don't know. It's being finicky.
No, do you have control of this?
I do have control. Sorry, Miss James.
Yeah, I can go up a bit more now. Mm-hmm.
Do you remember receiving these emails from Miss Heard?
Not really, no. No.
Do you see where Miss Heard on February 4th, 2015 writes in all caps, "Are there no direct flights?" Question mark, exclamation. I'm just pointing her to the top email, Mr. Rottenborn. Do you see where Miss Heard writes to you, "Are there no direct flights?" in all caps?
Yeah.
You would agree with me that nowhere else in this email chain Miss Heard uses all caps just to write to you, correct?
No, there's not. She seems very confused. That's all I can say. When I'm reading through this, she just seems to be very confused. And the thing is, like if that question were to be directed to anyone, it should have been to the travel agent, not me. I mean, I'm not the travel agent. The travel agent was down there in the beginning, Trudy Sullivan.
Directing your attention, Ms. James, to May of 2014, when you met Ms. Heard at the Chateau Marmont in Los Angeles, California. Do you remember your testimony about that incident? You testified previously that Ms. Heard asked you to bring a bathing suit to the hotel. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did you see Ms. Heard wearing a bathing suit in May of 2014 at the Chateau Marmont?
Yes.
Based on your recollection, did you see any bruises on Ms. Heard's body?
No.
Did you see any red marks on Ms. Heard's body?
No.
How would you describe the general atmosphere or mood of Ms. Heard and her friends at the Chateau Marmont?
To be honest, it seemed a little conspiratorial to me.
How so?
Like a strategy meeting or something, and combined with a pool party. Hard to describe. It was very confusing. Originally, I thought I was going over for some major emergency, but then something else completely different was going on that day.
What made you think something completely different was going on that day?
Well, because originally it made it seem like she was having this major emergency and she was completely alone and she needed me very badly to come as quickly as possible. But when I got there, she was surrounded by people. Savannah, Io, Tillett Wright, and Rocky specifically, Raquel Pennington.
What was the second name you said? I got Rocky and who?
Io, Tillett Wright. It's the letter I, the letter O. Tillett Wright.
Did you observe Ms. Heard showing what appeared to be injuries to any of her friends at the chateau that day?
No.
Did it appear to you that Ms. Heard's friends were comforting her? How would you describe Ms. Heard's friends' behavior?
Friends hanging out together by the pool, having cocktails and spending the entire afternoon hanging around together.
Did you ever learn information that made you believe that one of the reasons that their relationship between Johnny and Amber wasn't, as you described, perfect was because of Johnny's substance abuse?
I couldn't speculate on the details of their personal relationship.
You did testify earlier that one of the reasons you thought their relationship wasn't perfect was insecurity on Amber's part, though, right?
Yes.
So you developed an opinion that insecurity on Amber's part affected their relationship, but you did not develop an opinion that substance abuse or any actions by Johnny affected their relationship. Is that right?
That statement was based on communications directed to me from Amber, basically.
What communications specifically?
Expressing, exactly what I just stated. That she was sad, she didn't want to be away from him, blah, 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 that sort of thing. That would happen all the time.
And you believe that those statements were the reason that their relationship wasn't perfect?
It's not for me to speculate.
You would agree that just because someone is insecure in a relationship does not mean that she deserves to be abused, correct?
I have no answer for you for that.
You would agree that even if someone acts, quote unquote, smothering in a relationship doesn't mean she deserves to be abused, correct?
I don't have an answer for you for that.
I don't have any further questions. Thank you for your time today.
All right, thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and take our morning recess for 15 minutes. No outside research, do not talk about the case, right? Okay, thank you. All right, let's go ahead and take a break until noon. Is your next witness, we're going to set it up so it's all ready to go in next, okay. I really appreciate that. Okay, thank you. We'll be in recess till noon.